and welcome to Teleislas News with the most relevant and important information of the day. Today, the post-consuming waste collection campaign was opened, which seeks to reduce the rate of pollution in our department.
The Punto Azul Corporation inaugurated its awareness and waste collection campaign, which will be carried out in the department from October 13 to 15 in the Morgan Canyon. Simultaneously to the activity, the local government, Coralina, and the Punto Azul Corporation signed an agreement for the extraction of post-consumer waste. Jorge Trujillo, director of Punto Azul, indicated what waste will be collected during this campaign.
Principalmente medicamentos vencidos, empaques y envases de
mainly expired medicines packaging and medicine containers. And this time we are collecting plastics, all types of plastic. The main collection point will be the Morgan Canyon. There will be another point diagonal to the government facilities. A collection point will be the beach where the pedestrian pathway begins, and on Friday we will be in the Red Ground neighborhood.
During the activity, the entities open a call for proposal that seeks to finance an environmental enterprise that manages hazardous waste. The project will have a funding of 80 million pesos.
Este proceso hoy tiene una necesidad sentida en el departamento.
This process today has a felt need in the department because we do not have a company that is dedicated to this, and to manage this type of waste there are certain specifications, certain regulations and legislation that must be fulfilled. However, for that we are united with the Punto Azul Foundation, with the Chamber of Commerce, ready for those who want to participate in this call.
The call will be open until February 28 of 2022, and it's aimed at Colombian citizens between 18 and 35 years old who are based on the archipelago of San Andres, Providence, and Santa Catalina. Information will be available on the webpage of the Chamber of Commerce and the Punto Azul Corporation.
In the morning hours in the vicinity of Costa Rica Avenue with Colón Avenue, the National Police captured a citizen of French nationality who had a red notice of Interpol. The man, identified as Mr. Mabrouk, apparently is required by the European authorities for the alleged crime of murder. And the General Registrars Office of the nation has already defined which will be the voting points for the next youth elections.
Next December 5th, the local election of the Youth Council 2021 will take place in the department. The Registrars Office defined the voting points in the archipelago, which will have 23 polling stations of San Andres and 2 for all Providence and Santa Catalina.
To date, there are 47 candidates registered, and the voting points are those that have already been used: the Bolivariano School, Natania School, Brookside School, Luis Amigo School, and San Luis Coliseum. The effort and enters the new beginning of wisdom, which is the Juvenile Reform School, and also enters the Departmental prison. We also have the principal of Old Providence, which is the Juvenile School.
The Registrar Office also released the potential number of voters currently registered in the archipelago for its first youth elections.
In San Andres Island, there is a potential of 14,348 young people eligible to vote between the ages of 14 to 28 years, where 7,184 women and 7,164 men are discriminated against throughout the department.
For the Youth Council election, citizens between 14 and 28 years of age may vote. Those between 14 to 17 years of age must present their identity card and the voting point. Those between 18 to 28 years of age must bring their identity card.
And about 4,000 people are expected to enter this department during the week of break. So taking this into account that San Andres is one of the most visited places, the Tourism Secretary doubles its work to provide optimal service and preserve the good name of the archipelago.
Here it is. Here is the international destination. We are going upwards. We support all the inhabitants of San Andres. Go ahead, merchants. Excellent. The island is impeccable, and so is everything. The sanitation service on the island has improved a lot. Really, we have constantly visited the island of San Andres and the service has improved a lot. The attention and the people that rent the different services are very good. But in the hotel, different areas of the building need to be better maintained.
These are some of the perception of the island by visitors who come to the department to enjoy the tourist attraction, but also expect to be treated in a special way and with respect. We are currently in the week of break, where the tourist influx is expected to double, so the Tourism Secretariat is working on the beautification of the areas where tourists normally visit, as well as coaching and training for tourist service providers so that San Andres continues to be one of the most visited destinations.
It's a very nice island. Everything was organized, very cool. We had a great time and enjoyed being here as a family. As with everything, some things are good, others are not so good, but it was a very pleasant experience.
Very good, very nice, everything. Very good service, very cool, phenomenal. The beach here is very nice. Your beach is very, 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 very spectacular.
The beaches of the Biosphere Reserve are described as spectacular and clean, and to complement this quality, the Secretariat works to preserve the good image.
We have doubled our efforts and we are making a greater presence in the Keys, smaller islands, and in the main tourist beaches. How are we doing it? By putting more lifeguard personnel, more APH personnel, so that in case of any emergency that may arise and occur, they can safely safeguard the lives of our visitors.
As for the week of recess specifically, the head of the office said that it is expected to receive up to 4,000 people per day, so that during the weekend the visitors are returning and the number of venues will decrease.
The application of first, second, and third doses of vaccination against COVID-19 is progressively advancing in the 4 points enabled in various sectors of the island to facilitate the community access to these biologicals.
With the purpose of advancing rapidly in the immunization against the coronavirus, the coordination of COVID-19 vaccination of the State Social Enterprise Departmental Hospital continues implementing strategies to reach the entire population living on the island, eliminating barriers to access the service by enabling 4 vaccination points strategically located in different sectors. During the past week, the following overview of vaccines has been reported.
During the course of this week, in the points that we have strategically opened on the island, which are the health post on the hill, the health post in San Luis, the government facilities, and the vaccination tent at the hospital. In those 4 points, we have vaccinated not a large number of people, but we have already started with the booster dose. At this moment, we have vaccinated 54 people over 70 years of age with their 3rd booster dose.
The vaccination coordination hopes that with this campaign, it will be possible to apply the biological to the population that has not yet started its scheme, as well as to apply second and third booster doses to those who are in these areas of the island.
We invite the community to please come out to complete their second dose, those who are still waiting to receive the second dose, because remember that the booster is given to the entire population 6 months after the second dose.
On the other hand, Jay emphasized that in order to complete the vaccination schedules, all persons who have been receiving the second doses for 6 months or more can and should receive the 3rd booster dose.
This is very important because in this way we continue to strengthen the immune system for the new diseases that are being presented.
In this way, citizens are invited to go to the 4 vaccination points enabled to receive the biological available.
The Departmental Animal Shelter that seeks to provide quality of life to the animals on the archipelago that are abandoned on the public roads is now finally in operation.
The opening of the Departmental Animal Shelter begins, which seeks to improve the conditions of the animals that are in a situation of abandonment. The scope of this animal center is not only the operation of the shelter, but also includes sterilization, capture, and transport of animals that are abandoned on public roads. Another function of the shelter is to receive animals captured by the police in cases of animal abuse.
We want to inform the community that this center is already operational. We have both the contract for the operation of the site site and the contract of the property that is owned by the EDAS company. We have a procedure assigning a professional to make on-site visits, not only checking the condition of the animals, but also the state of the infrastructure and compliance with the scope of the object.
The operator in charge of this animal shelter is the veterinary clinic PetSci, who reported that the municipal animal shelter already has 188 animals, including canines, felines, and equines that are in the process of adoption and in better conditions than they were rescued. Additionally, these animals have already gone through the sterilization process, and soon there will be massive sterilization and adoption activities where the whole community will be invited to participate in order to give a second chance to the animals that are here and also reduce the number of animals that are on the streets.
Good evening to all our viewers. This is the most relevant information from all Providence and Catalina. Yesterday was the launch of the planting campaign or Sembraton, an institutional effort to plant 180 million trees in the national territory, and Old Providence was not the exception.
Yesterday, October 12, Old Providence joined the national planting campaign and at the same time started the reforestation process. This initiative is being led by the Ministry of Environment, the National Environmental System, Coralina, among others.
Everybody are supporting this initiative to plant 180 million trees national. Providence is not the exception. Today we're starting with 550, 300 mangroves and 250 between frutals and different species from coastal board.
The goal in Old Providence is to plant 550 trees of different species. The first planting was done simultaneously on Southwest Bay, Mancha-Neal, and Phantom Beach.
The beach is just the beginning of the planting that the corporation going to do in the whole island of Providence. We start with the beach, then we're going to start with some yard that people ask already for plant. The corporation have a lot of plant, and the corporation going to plant it in the yard, fruit tree. Then we're going to continue with a process too with Catalina.
The event had the participation of the Secretary of Tourism that planted the first tree on the beaches.
For the municipality, it is very important to participate in this national planting campaign because we have to reforest all the beaches of the municipality, all areas of tourist interest, after all the damage left by Hurricane Iota.
Next week, a reforestation process will begin in Santa Catalina, one of the sectors most affected by the passage of the Hurricane Iota.
And in other news, this week the installation began of a new biodigester at the municipal farm, donated thanks to the efforts of the Colombian Red Cross. Let's see.
As part of the socio-economic recovery project by the Red Cross for the islands, a new biodigester is being installed at the municipal farm to take advantage of the pig waste alongside other neighboring small projects. The investment will be of 120 million pesos.
Mainly to fix all the swine and chicken coops. Besides that, we are going to implement a biodigester system to collect the waste, to take advantage of the swine waste in the farm. The idea is that the gases collected by the biodigester will be used by the families near the farm. This type of gas can be used for cooking.
The use of these waste in an environmentally friendly way avoids possibility of contamination.
Una descomposición química, la cual...
A chemical decomposition which leads us to obtain methane and bile. We use the methane gas to reuse it as a source of caloric energy to cook food, and the bile part is going to be used to fertilize the crops on the island.
On the other hand, the system can also take advantage of cow waste.
¿Qué beneficios tiene? Que tú...
What are the benefits? After you install a biodigester, you will not have to buy a gas tank for your house because you will produce your own gas. You will produce your own fertilizer for your house, so you will reduce costs that are always high.
It is expected that by the end of this month, this biodigester will be fully operational.
This is all the information we have for tonight for this section of Old Providence and Catalina. You guys can continue in San Andres with more Teleislas news. Good night.
Thank you, Millie. And now let's see our Community Chronicles, a space where we can listen more to the community.
In In San Andres Islands, it has become common to hear an extensive list of criminal activities maintained by youth and adolescents. Moreover, it has become common within society to say that youth is lost. The Juvenile Detention Center has 100% occupancy of its facilities, and it is more normal for juvenile offenders to roam the streets of the island than for them to be incarcerated.
There are non-custodial measures that are basically those measures that accompany these young people in a restorative process, pedagogical measures to re-enter society or to overcome this stage. But there are also more restrictive measures, meaning deprived of liberty. There are 36 hours to define the situation, and there are several actors involved: the family welfare, the judge, the prosecutor's office, the ombudsman's office, and if the boy has a private defender, he is assigned a public defender. And among all these entities, the situation is defined in those 36 hours, and it is defined if he is deprived of his freedom or not, and something we are not doing right from the state, from the system, and from the family welfare.
The corresponding entities have to take hold of the social processes to encourage the youth of the island to good practices. As the old people say, let's go back to the times when the day-to-day activities was not stealing, murdering, swindling, extortion, or any of the other activities for which most of the youth in the juvenile center are confined. We have to question these institutions, such as the family and the state, if the programs and processes are producing the right result.
Tenemos dos programas insignia donde buscamos la reconstrucción de
We have two flagship programs where we seek the reconstruction of the social fabric, such as the program for children and adolescents, and the youth program where we have been in each of the neighborhoods taking training and strengthening, in addition to talks where they seek the prevention of nonviolence against children, nonviolence against young people, and the prevention of crime and punitive behaviors. Most of our adolescents that we have in the center are for attempted homicide or for homicide itself, which is a very serious crime. I remember that 5 or 6 years ago, the crimes, let's say, the adolescents committed were basically theft or aggravated theft or armed robbery or a few occasions.
The availability of current resources that should encourage programs for an adequate articulation of the life projects of young people is not enough. The laws of criminal responsibility must be updated to restrict these young people to commit crimes. Articles such as 181 of the Code of Childhood and Adolescence on the due cases of retention of minors should be changed in order to make visible the punitive actions taken to reduce the scandalous rates of juvenile offenders.
De igual manera hemos venido articulando el trabajo con la Secretaría de Educación y la Secretaría.
We have been working with the Secretariat of Education and the Secretariat of Sports, which we have taken some flagship programs as they are through sport to seek social transformation by encouraging recreation through sporting these children in different activities.